Ascension messages. Questions and answers, timelines and realities.
Question. I would like to understand more about the present dominant timeline, where it is going, and how we can change its outcome.
Answer. The past, present and future are all intertwined and are being temporarily animated only by where the attention is being placed on each timeline and at will. All of these timelines are seen as a single unit, where there is a chain of events on many differing timelines, all with differing outcomes, all equally valid, all existing simultaneously and constantly influencing each other. What is understood on Earth as parallel universes or timelines is of little understanding of this process, and indicates the limitation and isolation from these perceived realities that are separate from each other, while in reality, they are a whole and work together and are beyond all time.
Question. If these most probable timelines are being animated by the sleeping ones, what is the most probable outcome we are facing today?
Answer. It is each individual that animates everything in a specific way. Time is an ever-expanding scalar waves, expanding and at the same time, it is not. Simultaneously, it contracts without contradicting itself in its own energy dynamic. So with that in mind, what we see is that there will be more confinements and more restrictions progressively tightening, economies will collapse, people will panic and attack those who do not follow the rules. The masks themselves are an instrument to see who the dissidents are, to expose them. That is why they serve as indicators, to know which part of the population is more submissive and which should be attacked with more restrictions, using the very sleeping population as instruments of repression and perpetrators of fascism.
Question. How does this affect the awakened ones, the star seeds?
Answer. In a crisis situation, people will first want to obey the authorities by attacking the awakened ones, who refuse to wear the masks, thinking that they will be able to change, as they see it, the closed-mind mentality of the non-mask wearers. These attackers will have lost the ability to reason because of their fear and panic, particularly exacerbated by the lack of oxygen by wearing the masks themselves. The same will happen with the vaccines. The sleeping zombies will wish and ask for more restrictions and more vaccines. There will be mass and collective unrest around the world with a crushing military response.
Question. What time frame are we looking at?
Answer. The most probable time period for these events is between mid-2020 and 2025. This all depends upon humans with what they manifest, as we have been saying over and over again. Nothing is set in stone, everything described above is not deterministic, the Cabal and the Federation are in control of everything, including the masses of people themselves. From 3D, it may not look like this, and from the point of view of the families that are taken out of their home because they cannot pay the mortgage, there will be more struggle and more suffering. This is what 3D is all about, giving your free will up for the collective experience and giving up what little you have left to get ahead, as a soul or body biology. So, in this case and in any other, the only thing that matters is how you are inside, with what you think, your morals, values and ethics, and the level of your consciousness, that is always changing and expanding, leaving behind what does not serve you, without attachments, because those will slow you down. Values on Earth are reversed, so what does not matter, will really matter, and what matters, will not matter. What does matter there on Earth are money and material gain and bodily gratification, with a low level of consciousness that is materialistic and deterministic. When you die, it does not matter what you have with you, because you leave it all behind.
Question. So, do we take responsibility by placing in power better politicians and company CEOs, who have higher ethics?
Answer. Ethics, morals and consciousness do not matter in 3D Earth, only obeying the masters, and that is where the human error lays, that brings their destruction. However, the key is not to defeat the big corporations or the villains, because villains only have power because the same people give it to them. The key is not politicians, Trump or QAnon, as they are just more of the same, and it is inconsequential who wins the elections, because everything turns out the same, only with other faces. Even Trump works at a low cabal level with no real power, and only fights for his own interests and represents his group of the cabal, and is really only their puppet. He does not care about the people, He uses them to achieve whatever power he wants, and the ideas of the cabal masters that are behind him. Trump thinks he is independent and fights for what he thinks are his beliefs and desires, however, for more power, but not only for him, but for his groups of people supporting him, or controlling him.
Question. Then how do we make the necessary changes if we do not look out to leaders and politicians?
Answer. The key are the people on the streets. They are the ones that have the true power to change everything, the ones with very little. From above, from high densities, those are the key players, the rest are just noise and are just scenery on the stage, and like it or not, they designed everything that is happening right now. It is the human collective and the agreements between them that are formed, that they follow, and that is the key that has been described above. What we also see is more positive on a few timelines. From our perspective, looking down many timelines, there are a few random ones with a more positive outcome. On these timelines, very quickly humans realize that everything today is a huge hoax and nothing is really happening, that there is no virus, and people are saying a resounding no to vaccines after the first rumor of side effects and deaths caused by the vaccines. They will fear the vaccines, they will not cooperate and not be forced to take them in some way, because that is how things have been designed. Many of them will die. However, they will stop cooperating with the cabal and with governments from the most basic point of view or aspect of the human being's survival. Yet this always comes at a great cost to people. Great cost, because it depends on them realizing en masse that they are being manipulated, and this causes people to react with protests, and this follows with subsequent government retaliation.
Question. Assuming a positive timeline, what will be the human cost?
Answer. So all progress towards the positive will bring a strong reaction in people confronting each other, because of the very confusion they are being subjected to, thus creating an enormous death toll in human suffering. The cost in waking up will be very great. In most of all the timelines, the cabal does not achieve its aims or its primary objectives in the long run, while they do achieve it temporarily. It can be decades of their achievements. Their very transhumanism will create the cause. The humans under their control will cease to be human according to the definition of what being a human means. Because today, they see the apparent limitations of the human body and will want to be able to give their body cyborg parts and be connected to the internet, or attach prostheses that will give them super strength, and the cabal will progressively see that there is no use for any human component. The human race will be destroyed as a result, at least the part in or within the technologically advanced societies, and from these ruins, little by little, enough of the society will develop as it has always been on Earth. Cycle after cycle of birth, flourishing, decay and destruction of societies. They are born, grow, flourish and die. It has always been this way, for what humans might describe as hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years. It has always been this way.
Question. Our experiences on Earth, especially at this time, seems very difficult. Is there another way out?
Answer. Earth has always been a difficult place to incarnate into, the most difficult place many say. However, there are others. Earth is characterized by this. The 5D Federation did not intervene before, it never has, as the wish of humans before they incarnate is for no intervention. Why would the Federation intervene now at this time? The people, the souls who cannot bear to live like this with what is coming, will get out of the game, they will die. There will be very few people leaving in the Exodus ships, and the masses cannot count on this. From below, at the 3D Earth level, this is a horrendous genocide, and it is. However, from above, it is only the end of the game and rich in experience for everyone. Great growth comes after the teachings of the hard and the terrible. From outside Earth, it does not look terrible, it looks necessary and enriching. We understand this well, as we also understand how things look from below, from Earth. Once again, both extreme contradictory points of view are both true, they feed on each other and they are intertwined and linked and interdependent. The ones that are at the bottom, so to speak, are the key. What every little person out there who are feeling like trash can do, is by learning to use a simple 2-letter word, no. Everything that happens is a reflection of the mind, of the broken system and those who feel disenfranchised by that system. The little people are the creators and not the cabal and not the 5D Federation, as they are the reflections of the people's psyche. The little people are gods, but they want to play that whatever it is called and that is what they have, and no one can stop what will happen, only they can, themselves, because it comes out of them. They are the cause and the solution.
Question. Why can't we find a way to make people see the importance of waking up and saying no?
Answer. Reality can only be relative to one point of view. We cannot tell those who are asleep that they are wrong, as that is imposing our point of view onto them, and this would make us as nefarious as anyone else like Napoleon, Goring, Stalin and the like, by imposing our view. That is why nothing should be imposed, only offered without criticizing those who do not want what you offer. So, there is a reality for each consciousness and it is as valid as that of any other. It is their experience, and even though it is still correct, at the higher densities you understand more things. However, it does not mean that you are more superior, only that it is how you have designed your life for the experience you will have. There is no objective, tangible and absolute reality. Everything is relative. The only thing that could come close to that kind of reality is the source itself, the whole. However, from our also limited position, what we define as the source and the whole is still a reductionist explanation. The higher the density, the easier it is to manifest because one is more energy, in a perceptible state, by the said consciousness that is more fluid. From a lower and simpler density, everything manifests more slowly, and the slowly is the key here, in manifesting the something. For something to exist, it must be sustained as an idea that is constant, focused and not dispersed. This is because from the higher the density, the more data you are processing simultaneously. The lower the density, the less data, because your perception of reality is simpler or more reduced.
Question. Do we just have to imagine a better way of manifesting energy?
Answer. You do not understand the management of energy. You have agreed to see it as something causal and fixed, or what is called the material world by some, and not as an idea, or a thought. At low densities, the ideas tend to be fixed and imposed by authorities, hence, agreements are made and based on those ideas as well. So, the consciousness does not focus on what they want, because by agreements, they see everything as impossible, or that is what they have been told, that they cannot manifest many things because it is impossible. They may imagine it, but it stops there, because deep down inside, they believe they cannot have it. So it does not materialize for them. This state of awareness sees imagination as opposed to the material reality, when they themselves can have the ability to see that everything they call material reality was once imagination. Even when it is in front of them, they still cannot see it. The entire material world as perceived from high densities is imagination. The only thing that separates high and low densities is perception agreements. Again, the only thing limiting you is the idea that you are limited. Everything that is seen, everything that is perceived as an external world, is the result of countless agreements of perception, and there is nothing outside of such perception agreements. What you can do in the material world depends solely on your mind and your mental state. It is your mental state, your perception of how things are and how things work, that determines people's reality. From high densities and idea realities, whatever comes to mind is. At medium densities, you still experience things happening to you. You can focus on what you remember of how things were when you were at lower densities. However, you also keep dreaming and leave all those previous agreements behind. You know how to focus on what you want, and that is, that everything in front of you gets transformed.
Question. What are dreams and what is reality?
Answer. Everyone experiences dreams. What you have in your mind is what you will dream. If you dream mundane things, it is only because that is what you have in your mind. However, everything in the dream is real or more real than in the objective and real world of being in wakefulness. When you die, you only become what you dream of, and what you have in your mind is what you will also see. Your mind, your values and ideas, Your agreements or agreeing not to have agreements is your reality, and that is what you see. There is no objective reality, everything is dreaming, or, there is objective reality, only as you wish. However, dreaming for someone else is their objective reality, and no one has the right or the authority to impose one reality onto another.
Question. If in my dreams I am creating a reality, how does time relate to my dream reality?
Answer. When you are in a low density, you have a lot of attention on the progression of how things are happening in your perception. That is why time is perceived as linear. While in the dream, it is not, or it is only for short periods of sequential time, a sequence of events. Then you jump to something else with your attention. The higher in densities you are in your consciousness, time becomes more and more fluid because you stop seeing things in a simple and linear way, and you start connecting to everything that you perceive as your reality, with other things, events and ideas. You no longer see a fixed sequence, or you begin to understand that there are other kinds of sequences.
Question. So can you have a sequence of events that are not perceived as linear time?
Answer. When the event from 3D or even 5D are seen as a succession of events, from above, they are seen with another connection. The sequence would be seen jumping from one point to another point in time and then to another. Forward and then back again, outside of linear time, creating its own linearity for the consciousness of the observer, a progression of events that have nothing to do with a calendar or clock. In other words, you create your own sequence of events. However, it gets even more complex because what is described above is still linear time, even if it is in the unique manner outlined of the said consciousness. Higher up, it becomes even more complicated because events are perceived, not only with their own linearity, the contrast that of 3D or 5D, but they also jump from a timeline or parallel universe into another and again into another, also in reverse or without sequence. That in itself, not only creates its own logic of events or what reality is, but from the point of view of the consciousness that experiences that, everything from that position makes more sense than from the position of linear observation. This creates in turn, its own agreements and how reality is seen, its own universe with its own laws, completely incompatible and incomprehensible for a consciousness in a lower state or a lower density. Tawana, Tawa, adventure with joy, with all its multiple meanings.